Hello, I'm Rachel. I'm building an electric airplane derived from the Cozy Mark IV. Today I want to talk about the work I've done for Chapter 8 of the Cozy plans, though I've done some simplification over the plans for my electric derivative. The Cozy is meant to be a 4-seat airplane, 2 seats in the front, 2 seats in the rear, but I'm not going to install the rear seats. For my electric derivative, I'll be using the space and mass budget for more batteries. I almost never fly with more than one other person anyway, and I'm okay with renting for the incredibly rare times when I do want to fly with more people. That said, yeah, I shouldn't have to sacrifice 2 seats just to get acceptable endurance under battery power. When battery tech improves enough, I'd be thrilled to go back and install rear seats. Will that happen anytime soon? Probably not. However, there's some really promising proof of concepts for high energy density batteries out there now. I don't expect them to be widely available by the time my plane is flying, but I'd love to be mistaken. Only if mistaken means that those batteries make it to market sooner, not that my plane takes even longer to finish. That said, being essentially forced to give up 2 seats does have mild benefits in the here and now, namely that I get to save a little bit of time by not putting in attach points for the rear harnesses. All that is to say that I spent this chapter installing the front safety harness hardware. First comes the shoulder brace. This contains the top mounting points for the safety harnesses and is also where I will install the headrests in a future chapter. First, I cut out the foam cores for the shoulder brace. This is comprised of 2 pieces of 3/8 inch thick PVC foam that'll be butted together into a corner piece. I cut these out using a box cutter knife, then I used a bandsaw to cut 45-degree angles into them so they fit correctly on the angled front seat back. The top piece gets 4 hard points made of 1/4 inch thick birch ply installed, which will help anchor the shoulder straps of the safety harnesses. I installed these with 5-minute epoxy. While I was test fitting the birch hard points, I broke the foam, but I repaired it with that same batch of 5-minute epoxy. One of the best things about composites is that everything is repairable. Sure, sometimes it's faster or easier to remake a part, but everything can be repaired. Next, I temporarily joined the 2 foam pieces with finishing nails and made test fits to get it right. It took a bit of back and forth to match the contour of the front seat back. Later, I picked up a contour gauge, which would have made this whole process go by much quicker, but I got it to fit. After fitting, I pulled out the nails and joined them properly with 5-minute epoxy. In another example of how everything is repairable, after this cured, I realized I had joined them in the wrong orientation, so I cut them apart and rejoined them in the correct orientation. After the foam was correctly joined, I added some bid on top of the hard points to help reinforce them. Next up is making some nut plates to secure the bolts that'll hold the safety harnesses. These are plates of 1/16 inch thick 2024 T3 aluminum. I made some trial plates, learning how to use the tools and how to drill the holes correctly before I made the ones I'll actually be using. Once I had the aluminum drilled, I riveted the nut anchors by using a table vise to squeeze the rivets into place. The rivet squeezer I ordered is on back order. They're not pretty, and they wouldn't be accepted if they were like the wings on a van, but given the use case, preventing the nut anchor from rotating so that the safety harnesses can be secured, these are just fine. With these nut plates made, I took time to prep them for glassing by first sanding them with 220 grit sandpaper and using Alumaprep and Aladine to clean them and prevent corrosion. Aladine also improves how well the epoxy adheres to the metal. These chemicals are rather nasty though, which is why even though I'm working outside, I'm still wearing a respirator. Normally the plans have you attach the nut plates after you've secured the shoulder brace to the front seat back, but then it's kind of a pain to attach the nut plates, so I made the fairly common deviation to attach these early. First, I drilled 1/4 inch holes in the center of each hardpoint, and then I glassed the interior. I used 2 plies of bid, and then I let it sit for a few hours until the epoxy was in the green stage. I reopened the previously drilled holes. I then floxed the nut plates in, using 1/4 inch bolts to clamp them in, and attached the shoulder brace in place with fresh epoxy and flox, clamping it in with help of these 3D printed blocks. For the exterior, I used 2 plies of bid, extending an inch over all edges. Around the upper longerons, I couldn't quite get the bid to wrap how I wanted, so I went back later and added some short strips of bid to get it right. Additionally, all 4 shoulder harness attach points get 3 plies of uni extending 2 inches forward of the shoulder brace and about 3 inches around the back of the front seat back. This reverse 45-degree angle presented obvious problems with getting the fiberglass to adhere, so I printed these blocks to help clamp the fiberglass in place. Unfortunately, when I clamped them in, I disturbed the fiberglass enough that the top layer of uni was pulled out of place on this inner angle where the front seat back meets the shoulder brace, which I didn't notice until after the epoxy had cured. That, and with some other errors, gave me a few hours worth of sanding, plus about 45 minutes of glassing to repair this. After repair, I opened up the holes for the shoulder brace attach bolts. First, I drilled a 1/8 inch pilot hole to check I got the location right, then I widened it with a 3/16 inch bit, and then finally widened to full width with a 1/4 inch bit. I got the pilot hole correct first try on 3 of the 4 attach points. For the 4th, I got it on the 3rd try, and I filled the other 2 holes with epoxy. This finishes the shoulder brace. For the lower harness attach points, I started by cutting out 2 3x4 inch pieces of birch plywood. These are used in the outer harness attach points to provide additional bracing against the lower longerons. By this time I had a contour gauge, which I used to get the exact contour of the area so I could sand the birch to fit. With that, I was able to get a very good fit on the first try. After that, I chamfered the front and rear edges so that the glass would smoothly transition off the birch and onto the fuselage side. For the center harness attach area, no birch piece is needed, and instead I'll be adding fiberglass on top of the center harness attach point. This is a piece of aluminum tubing which already had 7 layers of uni laid up on top of it back in chapter 6 when I made the center duct. Upon install, I added wet flocks to fill in gaps between the birch and the fuselage. Per plans, it's only necessary that the birch be flush with the lower longerons. Other gaps are meant to be filled with wet flocks. Then I brushed pure epoxy on the birch hardpoints and put them in place. For laying this up, I chose to lay up all the fiberglass on plastic and then transfer the layup to the install points. This is both easier and faster than trying to directly lay up on the fuselage, especially for these rather thick layups. For the outer attach points, I made 2 rectangles with 7 layers of bid, which extend past the birch pieces by 1 inch on all sides. For the centerpiece, which had significantly more curves to deal with, instead of 1 rectangle 7 plies thick, I instead created 3 rectangles. One with 3 plies, bid, uni, bid, and the other 2 with only uni and bid. I cut these to size and individually installed them. This allowed me to better ensure that the fiberglass would conform to the curves. After cure, I used a drill to open up the hole for the aluminum tubing in the center harness. And that's where I put this on hold. What remains is to fabricate and install the lower harness attach brackets, the rear half of the center duct, and the headrests. I'm waiting on backorder material for the harness attach brackets, and I'm waiting to build the rest of the center duct and headrest until later in the build. I'm going to run some electrical wires through the center duct, and it'd be much simpler to wait until I have the wires ready to install before I finish the center duct. As for the headrests, I'm going to make and install them as part of my work on the canopy. Next up, I'm focused more on the rear of the aircraft, installing the main gear. If you like this, please leave a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day. Bye! I cut these out using a bandsaw. No, I didn't.